get a chance, hit that subscribe button as hard as you possibly can. I need more subscribers. So, subscribe. Told myself I wouldn't get political on here. That was a lie. I'm going to vote for whatever candidate brings back McDonald's sugar-free iced coffee to their menu. It's been discontinued. It should be illegal. It needs to be in the Constitution somewhere that can't happen. The regular one's like 35 calories. Delicious. Sugar-free one's like 2. Also delicious. Okay? I'm not a health nut. Okay? I like pizza on Wednesdays and Mexican on Saturdays. I can't be drinking this every morning with 35 grams of sugar. I was cutting cows. I was a lean, mean fighting machine every morning. I'm going to be 390 here soon if we don't get a other one back on the menu. Washington earned my vote. Okay? I don't care about the border crisis or Ukraine or COVID boosters. Bring it back. Please. Adding a new feature this week called the 60-second review. This one happens to be a movie review with esteemed movie critic Matt Lithberg on Dune 2 that hit theaters last week. There's Siskel, there's Ebert, and then there's Matt Lithberg.
What's up? This is Matt coming to you the first of hopefully many of Lithy's 60-second movie reviews. Today I'm reviewing Dune Part 2, Denis Villeneuve's sequel to Dune Part 1 from 2021. This movie will blow the doors off your senses. If you have even a 10% interest in seeing this movie, I recommend you seeing it in the biggest, nicest theater possible. Grab some popcorn, Sour Patch Kids, Diet Coke vanilla syrup. I personally like to keep a cut from a movie I saw 2 weeks ago to save myself $9. Sorry, AMC. Timothy Chalamet, perhaps the only megastar in Hollywood that I could beat up, once again proves why he may just be this generation's Leonardo DiCaprio. The man does not miss and dominates every single scene he's in, which is especially impressive when you consider this movie also has Zendaya, Josh Brolin, Florence Pugh, Christopher Walken, Javier Bardem. Austin Butler plays a hairless albino and somehow makes it look like a badass. This is easily the best movie of 2024, and by the time we hit 2025, it may have retained that title. I give this movie 9 thumbs up.
I'm excited for our guest today. She's a licensed marriage family therapist. She has over 600,000 followers on TikTok, hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram. She has her own YouTube channel. She goes by So My Mom's a Therapist. And going to dive in, ask a bunch of questions, get to know her, get to know therapy, all of that stuff. I think it's going to be a great episode, and maybe you get to leave here with a little nugget or tip or something that'll help you out. But all in all, I'm very excited to learn more about the whole therapy world and everything she has to offer. So I hope you enjoy the show. All right, and we are live. Thanks for coming on.
Of course, my pleasure. I love this.
Can I call you Doc, even if you're not a doctor or whatever? I just want to call you Doc.
You would not be the first one. Actually, I'd say about a third of my clients, legally, I have to say, hey, I'm not. I have a master's. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, but I'm not a doctor, although I am working on my PhD. But you can call me, if you want to call me Doc, it's totally up to you.
Sounds good, Doc. So you are a licensed family marriage therapist. And then I also saw that you do EMDR and TRM, which I have no idea about. So
all those letters.
I got like 6 questions wrapped into one, but the first one will be do you just do marriage and family therapy?
No, actually, I would call myself more a trauma therapist or a body-based therapist.
Okay.
My license is marriage and family therapist. That covers anything related to individual, families, couples, marriages. So it just kind of is that overarching cover that they put on it. But I would actually consider myself a trauma or a body-based therapist.
Okay. And what is EMDR?
Good question.
Thank you.
EMDR is eye movement desensitization reprocessing. It's a tool. Yeah, I know it's a lot of words. So basically, in a nutshell, it's a tool that some therapists can get trained, like I've been trained to do. It's a pretty extensive training and a lot of hours. And it's just a tool belt. It's just a tool that we put in our tool belt. It's pretty fascinating, though. It goes with the belief that the brain wants to heal itself. The brain wants us to have things sit well in our body. It actually has this, it's the belief, it's started, I think, in the 1980s or 90s, when they were looking at research and looking at the people that founded it, is realizing that when we are in REM sleep, rapid eye movement, when we are sleeping, our eyes have a way of like kind of logging things from current day to past memory, right? So if I were to ask you, Nick, what did you have for lunch yesterday? You would say what?
2 McDonald's cheeseburgers, no buns.
Seriously?
No big deal. That's literally what I had.
Okay,
I
but
wish it
even,
was a cooler.
I know, but even as I said that, right? That's funny you say that because I had an In-N-Out burger 2 days ago
Oh,
with a whole bun, lots of animal style, extra onions. It was fantastic. But even as I said that, like what emotion? I mean, do we have much emotion that goes when you recall your lunch from yesterday? What emotion comes with it?
just excitement. Being at the Golden Arches.
Right. That, yeah, but not a whole lot. Like maybe pleasant
Yeah,
or neutral, right? So that's
correct.
long past memory.
Neutral.
Right. When people often have had a traumatic event, there can be big T trauma. That's going to be like an accident or actually an event that happened, or natural disaster, or little T trauma, things that everybody experiences. And trauma, by the way, is subjective. So you can have two people experiencing the same thing, and one it can register as traumatic, and the other is not. How do you know it's traumatic? It kind of gets stuck and logged in our body. For instance, you recall lunch and you said, "Oh, I had 2 patties." That doesn't really get logged in my body. That's a pleasant, nice sensation, but it kind of moves through our body. When you recall something that has a traumatic effect, your body will actually remember, and it's as if it doesn't remember time has passed, which is why you can be recalling something that's traumatic and your body feels like it's happening again, or it gets a really strong body sensation, because our bodies do not know time, which is why we often will have a real strong sensation. EMDR goes in with a tool that says, hey, let's see if we can dislodge that sensation. Not that you forget the memory, but can I dislodge it, kind of rework out that memory, how your body holds it, so I can log it and file it as past memory, and not so it gets stuck with the sensation in your body. Because then what
Gotcha.
happens is that events going forward in your body, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but I know it's happened to most people, is that they'll be experiencing something. It can be something like a smell, a taste, it can be an interaction with another person, and their body reacts in response not appropriate to the event, but based on a trigger they already hold in their body, right? So which is why
Yeah,
people get triggers. That's why people get triggered and they respond in a way, and then you get defensive, being like, why are they making a big deal out of this? Well, you just hit something that's logged in their body. So.
interesting. And you're trying to separate the two.
Right. So what we do is it's kind of like we go into the brain and using that rapid eye movement, the same thing that happens when you sleep at night, when you're in that REM cycle of sleep, and it kind of reworks it through. It's under the premise that the belief is that the brain wants to heal itself. It likes to have things sorted out. So we'll go in through some memories, almost into a portal, and the brain will kind of reconfigure things. It's like taking a puzzle where a piece isn't quite into place,
Okay.
and it's reworking out that piece until it all of a sudden gets in the puzzle, sits in the puzzle, and then is at rest. And that's kind of what we're doing to the brain. And I've seen, honestly, some super cool, phenomenal changes in people. It gives you a much more concentrated, I always say it's like 6 months of therapy in like a month. It's pretty intense, but it kind of brings up a lot, refigures it out, and then settles it back down.
Whew. But so if something brings back a memory, like something triggers it, there's also good triggers, right? So I wouldn't say it's called good trauma, but there's good, I don't know, memories that can come back with a trigger as well.
Sure. Usually we use that word triggered in a negative sense because our body will get flooded. And when our body gets flooded, it goes more into a fight or flight response.
Okay.
But absolutely, our brain holds sensations where if we recall something and it's pleasant and it's calm and it's wonderful, it can. But think about it. Our whole point of our brain and our body is to keep us safe. It's to protect us and to help us get love. So our brain is going to be wired towards things that are threats, not towards things that are pleasant. Why? The pleasant things in life don't have a threat to them. Our brain will almost always go towards things. When I was on social media a lot and doing TikTok, this was one of my big things, is our brain will go to putting out a fire. It won't go to planting flowers. Why? There's no threat in planting flowers. So our brain constantly wants to go to putting out the fires. Why? Because that could harm us of our safety and it could rob us of love.
Interesting. Getting deep early. I like it.
Really getting
Can't be robbed of love. What are we? Animals? We got to get in there.
Interesting. You stumbled on something though that is one of my techniques with clients, which is they want to get rid of their problems. They want to minimize those fires or the things that are bad. But believe it or not, one of the ways of doing that is learning to train your brain to go over and expand things that are pleasant, right?
Yeah, I love things that are pleasant.
Right. Well, think about when you're in experiences that are pleasant, then what happens to the things that are hard in that moment?
They kind of go away.
That's right. For the same reason, light displaces darkness. Turn on a light, the dark gets smaller.
Darn right. Displace it. Get it out of there. How did you become a therapist? How did you get into that? Like, is that lifelong goal, or was that, hey, I don't know what to do at a certain age, or is it just how did you kind of dive into the whole thing?
That's a really good question.
Thank you. 2 for 2.
I've actually been interviewed quite a lot when I was in the height of social media stuff, and I've never been asked that question. So, bravo to you, Nick.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Doc.
Actually, in my 20s, I was a high school math teacher and loved teenagers, which is why I'd still say about half my practice is teenagers. I love working with that age group, and always loved teaching, which is why I still do trainings and teach. No, it was, I'd say, about midlife, and ended up taking a pivot and had stopped teaching and was home with my little kids, and just, actually I was hiking. I went up hiking and was just kind of having a conversation, and as I ran down the hill, I just felt like I was supposed to go back to school, and did. So with 3 little kids, I went back to school and got trained, and then started a different career. Still working with teenagers, still loving that age group.
I'm more impressed you ran down a hill. That's not easy. Forget being a therapist. That's something to be proud of right there. And now, how long have you been doing that exclusively?
Since 2014 is when I started.
Okay.
So 10 years. Mm-hmm.
So you did that for 10 years. And how in God's green earth did you get 640,000 followers on TikTok? Like, was it one video that blew up, or was it just a million other videos? How does someone get 640,000 followers on TikTok?
Yeah, you and me
and not
both.
doing dances.
I know, right? Like, there's no dances, no like before and afters, no makeovers. I don't think anybody wants to see a makeover tutorial that I do. It actually was. It was by accident. It kind of was funny. It was 3 years ago now, and it just kind of was like after COVID, and one of my youngest was watching TikTok on the couch. I of course know what it was, like
Right.
I knew what it was, but she was sitting on the couch, and I could hear her on her phone, and it was listening. I just kind of slid in next to her, and it was like the worst dating advice I'd ever heard. It was the most toxic shit I'd ever heard in my life. And I was like, what the hell is this? And she's like, oh, it's a dating coach. And then one of her friends was like, oh yeah, they're all over TikTok. And it was like a 20-year-old wearing spandex being like, if you want to get a guy, this is 3 ways to get it. And I was like, oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me. First of all, I would say, like, do the opposite of what this girl said. But
Yeah.
I'm like, why are we taking dating advice from a 20-year-old wearing, a Lululemon outfit? And again, I'm not knocking that, but like,
Right, who's been in one relationship.
yeah, exactly. It probably didn't even last very long.
Yeah, she probably sucks.
So kind of, I was like, oh my gosh, this is awful. And then always trying to like prod my kids or goof around. I'm like, well, I'm going to make a video with good advice. And they were like, okay, Mom, you do that. And then I was like, well, somebody show me how to make a video. I don't even know anything about this app. So,
Yeah.
I think it was one of their like boyfriends or girlfriends or someone was like, here's how you make a video. And then it was my daughter who was just like, if you really want people to watch, you got to stitch with another video. And I'm like, what's stitching? And then they had to show me how to do that. It's where you take a video and then you respond to it. So it kind of as a joke, and almost honestly more just to get my kids riled up and upset, to like make them roll their eyes at how dorky Mom is. Like, my life goal is to make my kids embarrassed and to think their mom's a dork.
Good goal.
So I thought so. And that was why the name was So My Mom's a Therapist. It was almost like, too, because like, does any child want their mother to be a therapist? No, they do not. They hate it. They think it's embarrassing until one of their friends is in crisis. And then all of a sudden I'm like the best thing in the world.
Right. Genie's out of the bottle.
Exactly. Mom, we need your help. She's in crisis.
Did the first video blow up, or was it like I did one, did another one, and then how do you get 640,000?
I know. So actually I would do it. I really spent all of like 30 seconds, and it was like more fun to play around with. Again, I was trying to get a rise out of the kids. So like in between clients, and I carry up, I used to previously carried a really heavy workload. So I have like 40 clients that I'd be seeing. So it's not like I have like, I have just time to like twiddle my thumbs.
Right.
But I would take 30 seconds a minute, shoot out a video, and I would see a video that like I thought was awful advice, or I'd be like, well, no, let me explain to you what's going on here. So it started with me just kind of stepping in, and I just kind of stuck with dating and relationships. I didn't start out that way, but it's a world I know well, having kiddos myself, having teenage clients, 20-something clients. Like, I just know that world so well with dating apps and dating. And so I just started doing it, and I would say probably a week not even a week in, there was one that got like 10,000 views. And then they started to, and then like, then it started to very slowly, like not slowly, it grew pretty fast where my kids were like, Mom, so and so just texted me that you were on their For You page. And I was like, I know, I don't know what's happening here. And it was like, I've got 10,000 followers. And then literally I had 100,000 followers in the first month.
Wow, is that wild?
And we all were like we almost didn't know what to do. Like,
Yeah.
and then they're like, but you're dorky. And apparently they like you. I'm like, I'm just as puzzled as you guys. Like, that's how it started. It was like, and then it kind of, what I learned, people just wanted to feel loved. People really, and I've had conversations since on different interviews, and it's like, I think people are just looking for a mom or someone they know, one isn't full of bullshit, genuinely has just, I think, solid advice based on experience, and who can just show up and just say, here, let's understand why you do what you do, and you're just fine, you're doing good, you're just trying to navigate life, and just kind of come in with no judgment and just love, which is kind of what I give to my clients. I just feel like I'm just show up and love them. It's not about about my opinion or what I think about right or wrong. It's just showing up and helping them navigate life. And I think it just translated over.
Yeah, being genuine always helps. Anytime you're genuine in anything you do, sky's the limit.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, well, that's why I started working with teenagers in the first place. Everyone's like, why teenagers? I'm like, oh, because they can sniff out BS a mile away.
Yeah,
right?
that is true.
And so I like that. And so I kept saying, as long as it adds value, I'll keep doing it. Every now and then I'd get a little hate, and I had to navigate my way and decide how challenging I wanted to be. And I don't hit really hot topics, and I stay away from sensitive issues, but just try to add value. And then some really cool stuff started coming with it that we thought was like really fun, and got to do some deals and like brand deals, and that was fun too.
Sweet.
I know.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You probably have some celebrities following you too at 650,000 people.
Well, living in LA, like I'm not very impressed. Although I have to say, the kids went a little crazy when Camila Cabella followed me.
Oh,
and they were like,
that is cool.
So we thought that was
just hanging out with Shakira.
Yeah,
Be
so,
nice.
Yeah, now we're besties. Yeah.
I wish I had 640,000. I think I have 11. So I gotta do more dances. Okay, I gotta know this: is Dr. Phil worth a damn in your eyes, or is he just like TV's fast food, generic, get him out of here, or is he legit?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't really watch him, nor have I.
I've never seen a show. He's the only famous person I can think of that gives advice.
Yeah. Here's I don't know, and I don't know him personally, so I can't say. My guess is there's something there people are gravitating. So I always think if somebody sticks around and people gravitate, they're getting something, whether it's positive or negative or pleasant or unpleasant, they're getting something. But I can't tell you in general. Having a clientele that's very close to Hollywood and having clients that are in the Hollywood industry, that tagged in with, there was a singer, a musician, and his name is Dean Lewis. Awesome kid. I shouldn't say kid, he's like 35. But we actually met up, and he was just like, please tell me you're like as chill as you are in the videos. I'm like, oh wait, hold on, I'm human. I'm totally human. But he's got like 11, 12 million followers on Spotify. He blows up. He sells out stadiums. He's the nicest guy. But he was like, what is the best advice you have for me? And this ties to Dr. Phil. And I said, the best advice I have for you is don't buy into your own hype. And what I've seen is, even if they're doing good, the minute you put them on TV, the minute they get a lot of publicity, the minute you get a huge following, I think you have to be really careful to keep your feet on the ground. Like, you just shit like everybody else. You put your pants on like everybody else. And I don't know Dr. Phil personally, but I'd say probably from my point of view, his biggest challenge would be to stay normal, to stay feet on the ground. And I think that's really important as a therapist to do. Because some therapists start to feel like they're experts. No, we're just figuring out life like everyone else. I can share with you what's been helpful. I can share with you what's been helpful with my clients. But everybody's still navigating and figuring out life, even Dr. Phil. And sometimes we forget.
And I feel like therapists, like everything, I'm in real estate, but if you have realtors, you have police officers, you have surgeons, you have therapists, there's some bad ones out there. So you got to choose them carefully, whether it's a doctor or whatever.
Oh my gosh, you have no idea. You have no idea how many... Like, I have very few people I refer to because I just think there's a lot of not great therapists out there, just like everything else.
No, it really is. I would, every 5 real estate deals I do, I would probably say 3 of the agents I work with are awful.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do you have a job?
Right.
But they have a job.
Well, that's like the overarching like theme of a lot of what I was saying on social media too, just in general. because switching it back over to like what I teach on social media as far as dating and relationships, I always tell the girls, really, it's really, and they hate boys and they bash men. And I'm like, well, it's really hard to date a species that you hate.
Yeah.
Right. And so
take it easy on us.
one of the things I always like to say is like, there's some great guys and there's some not so great guys. And there's some great girls and there's some not so great girls. And there's some great therapists who are phenomenal. And there's some not so great. We need to keep people individual in every sense of the way, in careers, professions, dating. We forget that.
Now, do you deal with, if it's 50-50, but do you deal with more individuals or more like family groups, couples, things like that? Or is there one more than the other?
I deal with, because I see teenagers, I would say predominantly I deal with a lot of individuals because I'm dealing with teens, but I deal collaboratively. So I'm talking with parents if they're minors. I'm talking with school psychologists. I love working as a team, psychiatrists if they're on medication. I do couples work, marriage counseling, which I really like. I really enjoy. You got to be on and you got to be sharp and you got to run
like it.
around. I love it. And then I do child custody work every now and then where I'll sit as minors therapists. And those are highly contentious divorces. And again, I earn my money on those, but I like them. But those can be knocked down, drag out, which I'm like, bring it.
Yeah, you're getting pumped up just talking about it.
I do. I really love it.
Yeah, I mean, custody battles, that's what I live for. Okay, so my question would be what would you say is the most common, obviously not disclosing anybody, what would you say is the most common reason that you see a teenager? If you had to choose, what's probably, I keep hitting my mic, what's the number one reason or most common that you see a teenager?
Most common, I would say, is it's going to either fall in that depression or anxiety. Either they're so stressed out and anxious, right? High expectations of parents, or they're very self-driven, internally driven. So managing their anxiety or that depression, self-harm, suicide, those are the two main ones that I see.
I had a question about anxiety. I know what it is. I mean, I don't have anxiety, I don't think. I know it's like a fear. But my question is, what is it really a fear of? If you have anxiety, is it a fear of like making decisions, or are you scared of what's going to happen, or like you have anxiety because you have a test coming up, so you're nervous and you have fear about the test coming up? But like, isn't it just having fear? Like more, is it just more than normal people would have it?
Right. Okay. So this is where those other letters behind my name, TRM, trauma resiliency model. So let me explain to you a little bit about our nervous system, because I'm a brain and body therapist.
Okay.
Then I can put in anxiety into that. So when I'm looking at the trauma resiliency model, I love this model because it really understands what's going on, what is taking place in our body. So if we're looking at our nervous system, right? So our nervous system is what kind of runs our body, right? If our nervous system's on, and we see, if you imagine, let's go primitive. Like if there is a bear chasing a deer, the deer's nervous system kicks in and it's fight or flight. That's its like nervous system that kicks in. That's that part of the brain that is like, run, you're gonna die, right? And so our bodies work in a similar way in that primitive brain, that it is the sense that we have this window of tolerance. When our body is at a resting state, it's what's called a parasympathetic state. It means our nervous system's at a resting state. The minute it senses a potential threat in a way that bumps it out of that resting state, then our nervous system has a switch. And that switch is like, okay, it stays resting, it's tolerant, it can feel stressed, but it stays resting until it hits a point where it bumps out of that zone. When it bumps out of the zone, our nervous system goes from a resting parasympathetic state to a sympathetic state. The minute our nervous system goes on, it is like that deer that's running. It goes into a fight-flight response. So when it doesn't matter what bumps us out. It can be different things. It can be cumulative, like this is starting to pile on top of this, and then it bumps out. It can be like a war vet. Often a war vet, all of a sudden a car backfires, boom, their body's just out of its zone, gone, right? That's a PTSD response. It's like, boom, you're just out of your zone. And once you're out of your zone, the interesting we operate from the middle part of our brain. The amygdala is the part that sniffs out a potential threat, not necessarily a real one, a potential threat. And then if the other part registers it as an actual threat, then we have the limbic part of our brain that kicks in with fight, flight response. Interesting enough, this is all going to lead back to anxiety, but when we bump out of our zone, when our nervous system is now on, switch on, that part of our brain in the front, the prefrontal cortex that does all of our strategic, logical, rational reasoning completely goes offline. So you don't have access to it anymore, which is why a lot of cognitive behavioral therapists or talk therapists, they often get stuck. Why? Because they're trying to challenge your cognitive beliefs. Well, that works until it doesn't, because the minute your body bumps out of its zone, you don't have access to those thoughts, right?
Gotcha.
So where does anxiety fit in? for a multitude of reasons. Once once we're bumped out of our zone, once our nervous system's on, then we're not thinking with that rational part of our brain. That's why fears are often very irrational, right? But it's not. It goes into a fight flight response. So the fear can be anything from an unknown, it can feel overwhelmed. There can be lots of different things that cause that anxiety. When it becomes not manageable is when it's bumped out of its zone, because then it goes from like, okay, I'm a little stressed. Let's say I'm working with a teenager and they're like applying to colleges and there's family drama and now their friends have problems, and all of a sudden this cumulative is like it's too much and I'm blown out of my zone. And now all of a sudden, all those skills that I have to calm myself down, to say, you know what, this isn't that big of a deal, you're going to be fine, that's all the front part of your brain that just went offline. So what I help them do is learn how to get their body back into their zone, get their nervous system to come back off, because once their nervous system comes back off into a resting state, then I can go back up here and access my brain. Right? So part of it is trying to calm my body down. So let's say a kid's having a massive panic attack. That's one of the things that can be expressed in anxiety. If you've ever had a panic attack, it really resembles, it kind of shadows, mirrors, it can feel like a heart attack, and you can't tell the difference, right? The good news is no one has ever died of a panic attack. People need to hear that, even though it feels like
it is good news.
Yeah, but part of it is like, okay, let's get outside, let's shake our hands, right? Let's get something cold. Let's put something cold against our face. These are all things that I'll help work with them on building a tool belt. Why am I doing these things? Well, if I put a cold can against my face, right? If I dip my hand, if I get a bowl of ice water and just dip my hand into it, I'm trying to bump my nervous system back to an off state. Then I can go back up and access my thoughts and say, hey, this is okay. We're going to be fine. Let's just tackle one thing at a time, right?
Almost like smacking them out of it, but in obviously a non-physical way.
Exactly, basically. So my job is to help get them back into their zone, to get their nervous system back to a resting state so I can go back up and access my brain. So that's like overarching what's going on in the body.
That's intense.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm getting a PhD. You might call me doc by the end of this show.
I might.
Okay, so that was for teenagers. What would you say is the number one or most common thing you talk to about couples or marriage couples or those two?
Yeah, and that plays in so much into what I would teach on social media, on dating and relationships, right? Oftentimes it is a missing communication. I would say communication, conflict resolution are the two top things that I work on with couples. And the way I would describe it is this: always exceptions, but if it is a male-female relationship, oftentimes the male will be more logical reasoning, and they're trying to come in and fix things. Let me just solve the problem for you, right?
Guys, logical, I get it.
That's right. So I would call that English. Let's pretend there's like two different languages.
Okay.
And oftentimes it's the girl who is actually, she's not wanting a logical reasoning explanation. She's wanting something emotional. Emotional language and cognitive language. I call it body language and brain language are like literally the difference between English and French. You will not understand each other. So if she says, hey, it was really hard to me that you didn't come home after work, that you went out with the boys. And he goes, oh, let me explain why. He comes in explaining why. That's up here in English. She's not wanting English. She's needing French. She's needing an emotional language that says, oh, I could see how this could be hard for you, right? You can't come in and say, hey, let me explain where I'm coming from. But if you come in with reasoning, you'll end up just missing. And then what happens with the miss is then that miss builds and builds. One feels hurt. The other person feels like, well, what else do you want me to say? I can't explain anymore. And then it kind of goes round and round. So it's teaching them how to interpret, to speak the same language. Right. And so getting their communication back on track where they're often missing.
So having men see a little more emotion and having women see a little more logic.
Right. Is to be able to say, or be able to ask for what you need. Right. Sometimes women, and one of the things I'll teach men to say to women, and both ways, vice versa, is a woman may say, hey, this is what's wrong, or oh my gosh, this happened with my friends. And rather than a guy coming in and just giving solutions, is having them say, what do you need right now? Soothing or solutions? Are you just needing a hug? Are you just needing to hear me say, oh, that's pretty sucky, I'm so sorry? Or do you want me to help problem solve? So really helping them attune. Usually it's not that, usually the attunement is just needed. And once we get that dialed in, it's a whole lot better. The problem with couples is they come way too late. Sometimes they're coming when they're on their last leg, and now I'm sitting on 5, 10, sometimes 20 years of hurt that I got to unpack. And so sometimes time is my biggest challenge, is because one of them's already 1 foot out the door.
Oh, I can imagine that. Man, that is good stuff.
I love it.
I'm loving the crash course. All right, so you mentioned dating a bunch. So do you do a lot of dating advice? I know you do it on TikTok. I've watched about 1,000 of your shows now, or your little clips. Oh, yeah, I went hard before this episode. I watched maybe 200 of them.
Oh, what do you think?
I think it's
Honestly.
great. I think it's good. I have a different take on all of it. Not your take, but just a different take on most people. And you have yours is really common sense, genuine. I like it. And you're not a man hater. You're not someone who just like men are dogs, this and that. You give logical reasoning and thoughts behind all your videos. And you that Stitch thing, I don't know what it was called, but yeah, you show like 10 seconds of somebody asking a question or a video, and then you comment on it. You usually say, "Hey, dolls," and then you comment on it, and it was really good. So I liked it. I liked a lot of your reasoning. Again, and I'm like the 1%. My mind doesn't work like most people's, where I'm kind of happy-go-lucky, optimistic all the time. It'll always work out. It always does.
Mhm.
And again, so me giving advice to most people, be like, it's fine. It'll work out. Isn't the best advice. So watching your videos was great. So
Good.
anybody listening should go watch all of your videos like I did. Every single one of them.
Well, I actually stepped away for, gosh, a year and a half from doing it, and just recently, now that I'm pulling back my practice, and going to be pulling back my practice to about half of what I normally do, and traveling a lot more. So I'm thinking of put it back up and kind of started just playing around with it again. So
Yeah,
yeah.
keep going. Would you say? And I saw a lot of your videos. It felt like the number one dating stuff was the dating apps. Would you agree? That's
Yeah.
kind of like everyone's because that's now the new way to date for the last 5 years.
People hate dating apps. I actually, on my stand store, I had
People should
a,
love dating apps. Sorry, continue.
okay, wait, no, to your point. So I actually had put up a video because I'm like, people don't know how to use dating apps to their benefit. Remember, apps are supposed to make your life
I'm already getting
better.
fired up.
I'm not worried. I know. I get really excited about this. But one of the, it's actually a video I put up. It's super cheap. I think it was like $5 or whatever. And it's like a 20 or 30-minute tutorial on how to use dating apps. And it's called Dating Apps My Best Friend. And it was kind of tongue in cheek because people absolutely hate them. Instead, we should be like, no, you have a chance of meeting people you otherwise never would have met. But we
Totally.
have to learn how to use them in a way that's a benefit. If you're jaded, if you're feeling like worse, if you're getting more angry that you're on them, then don't get on it. Get off. And it doesn't mean you have to get off forever, but take a break. Take it off your phone for a week and then come back to it. But people
Yeah.
need to learn how to make dating a positive experience. The problem is that we are way too overthinking it, and now we are way too attached to the outcome. It's like they're trying to go through the In-N-Out line and pick up a burger, and it's not working because there's no burger coming out of the window. So people feel like I should be able to do this. I should be able to take these steps and get what I want. I want to get married. I want my partner, and it may work for their career, and it doesn't work for this. And so you
Yeah.
have to learn how to do it differently.
People are just so stupid. It's like, oh, you'd rather go to a loud bar and spend $50 on a drink, and it's smoky, you can't hear anything. It's 2 in the morning. That's how you want to meet somebody. That's your real treasure right there. But no, it's like you said, and I've used this saying before. It's like TJ Maxx. You got to sift through a bunch of junk to find something really great. And but no, anybody who doesn't like them is an idiot. It's just a lot of work, but so
I
is
think
everything.
But I don't think they've learned how to curate it to make it positive experiences. And to your point, that's exactly what I say. It's a pond. Everything's in the pond. You got your healthy fish, you got your really pretty fish, you got your funny fish, and then you got like your bottom feeders. And there's a lot of bottom feeders in the pond. So you have to learn how to highly sift to make it a positive experience. And believe it or not, the goal should not be to find your partner. And people think I got a lot of pushback from that, but it's true. You have to hold it in your brain to make it a pleasant experience so that your body wants to keep doing it. It really should just be, I'm just going to meet another human being I otherwise would not have met. Stop asking the stupid questions. Nobody since the age of 5 has wanted to know what your favorite color is. So don't ask what your favorite color is. You need to go in as a genuine human being, as if you had a coworker that said, oh my gosh, my friend's coming in town. You got to meet up with him. You guys are going to totally hit it off. That is how you go in. I'm meeting another human being I otherwise would not have met. Let's just see if we enjoy each other. Do not ask loaded questions. Do not interview them. And everybody says, no, I've gotten so much pushback. They're like, that's a waste of time. I said, no, it's a waste of time if you sit there and interview them, because now have you ruined your time? You've ruined their time as well. Nobody likes to get interviewed. We don't care what political party they believe in if they're not even fun and you don't even enjoy them. So do not ask those loaded questions. All your experiences, the first like 1 to 3 dates, is, do I even enjoy hanging out with this person? And would I want to hang out with them again? That's it. That's it. It has to be enjoyable human engagement. The minute we load it, we start acting funky and weird.
No, I liked your analogy of it being a pond with pretty fish and dumb fish and bottom feeders. And I got a buddy, he'll remain nameless, but a lot of bottom feeders with that guy. Nothing but bottom feeders. But no, that's a perfect analogy, and that's a fun way to look at it for sure. And like I said, I'm in the boat of I think it's great. I know a bunch of people. I've done it that met the person that they're with on it, and I think it's like I said, it's a blessing in disguise if you don't think it's very good. It
Yep.
really is good.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Also, I saw some of your videos on red flags and green, what all that stuff is. I think if a guy texts with a lot of emojis, that is the weirdest thing of all time. So if you're ever with somebody and he's using a lot of emojis and he's a male, I
Why?
think you need to get rid of him.
What do you think that says if a guy uses a lot of emojis?
He's a huge loser. I mean, it
Really?
should be a one emoji a day, but really like one emoji a week max for a guy. Girls, they don't even have to use letters if they want. They can emoji it up. But a red flag if a guy's just hammering out emojis.
Okay, I'm totally going to disagree with you on this, and here's why.
Oh, I would love to hear why.
Love. Because I don't necessarily. I think sometimes we get so hooked on this like green flags and red flags. If you're human, you have red flags. It's so interesting. We think of ourselves as having all green flags, and everybody else is having red flags. If you're human, you have red flags. We all do, right? And so
Yeah, but there's better red flags than other ones. Like I have a million red flags, but I'm not texting with emojis.
but that's particular to you. I mean,
Yeah.
there may be a girl that could come along that she's like, oh my gosh, that guy, I love his emojis. But see, this is the key.
That girl's got
It's
issues.
about it being a fit. It's about being a fit.
True.
And everyone's like, what are your biggest red flags, green flags? It's about it being a fit. If you're human, you're going to have green flags, you're going to have red flags. If you are human, you're going to have red flags. I think it's so interesting that everybody's like, I want a high value person, or what do you bring to the table? Not realizing that we have the things, everyone has a circle. We have our strengths and we have our weaknesses. We
Oh,
have
yeah.
things we bring to the table, and we're also human, and we have things we need to work on as well. And yet we tend to be so critical of like wanting some ideal person, right? And no, if you're human, you're going to make error. It's about it being a fit. It's not about finding some ideal person or high value person. I hate labels in language, like all this new language.
Makes me sick. Makes me want to throw up. Labels.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I don't want to keep you too long, so I got one more question, then we'll do our little rundown here.
All right.
What would your advice be, or what do you think the characteristic is to have a long, healthy relationship with someone? What would be your one piece of advice that kind of blankets everything?
I'll use an analogy I love to use a lot, and it would be like a cupcake. And here's the deal.
Ooh.
To have a healthy relationship, your partner should be the icing on the cake, not the cake itself. Too often when we're looking for our partner to fill everything, and even things left over from childhood, then we want them to be the entire cake and the cupcake and everything. And we feel offended and hurt when then they have not filled our needs, when they've not met our needs. The best healthy relationships are to say, no, the cake is for me to fill. To be loved, to be valued, to fill my own, to be able to advocate for myself, that is mine. So whether the icing's there or not, I still have a pretty damn good cake. I'm not waiting for a relationship to have a happy life. My happiness isn't contingent on that person coming into my life. I'm building a beautiful life. Now, do I want to share it with someone? Absolutely. I'm not trying to be like, no, I'm happy by myself. No, I can still say I'd love to have a relationship. I desire to have a partner. But even if that partner's there, even if they're there or not, I still have a pretty damn good life just having the cake by myself. And that's what I think makes for a healthy relationship, is that sense that says, I love you, I care about you, but whether you are in my life or not, I am still okay.
That's perfect. And what we always say is have someone that adds to your life and never subtracts. So same kind of thing, but with a lot better picture of a cupcake. Mine's not as cool. So I'm going to start using yours. All right, so we're going to get into Titanic. I'm asking like 10 questions. Usually have one or two answers. Just take top of your head, take 5 seconds if you have to, but quick answers. It'll be fun. Wheel and deal.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'll try. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
First one. How do you take your coffee if you drink coffee?
Brown sugar, oat milk creamer from Trader Joe's with my coffee.
Make your own then from Trader Joe's?
Uh-huh.
I just started making my own. It's awful. So I need to get better at it. I used to go to McDonald's every morning. It's a long story, but they discontinued their sugar-free. I'm not happy about it.
Well, and I used to go to Starbucks every single day, and by bringing it home, got an espresso machine. Me and George Clooney were rocking the Nespresso machine, and then I foam up my own milk. Brown sugar, I'm telling you, try it. It is a game changer. Brown sugar, oat milk creamer from Trader Joe's. You froth that thing up. It's better than any Starbucks.
I'll give it a whirl. I got a Keurig I got on Facebook Marketplace. I don't know if Clooney has that, but it's probably pretty similar. Okay. If you could only go to one concert in the next 5 to 10 years, who would it be?
Oh, can I pick somebody that alive or dead? It has to be
No, they
someone.
got to be alive. So it's got to be in the next 5 to 10 years. So preferably
Oh,
under the age of 80.
I would go Dolly Parton.
Really?
Yep,
Dolly?
I would. Yep, Dolly.
Double D Dolly. I like it. I can't name a single song I heard. Oh, 9 to 5.
Working not too
Yeah,
hard.
that is a
Well,
jam.
and why? What? First of all, she's iconic, and she's going to be dead soon. So, sorry, Dolly, not to
True.
mean that, but that's why to me, like everyone I'd want to see is passed away. So, like the people
Yeah.
I would see, so I would see her.
And she's got an incredible voice. So it's the best movie of all time.
Oh, okay. So I like my lighthearted movies. I don't like deep movies. So to me, best movie of all time, honestly, is probably I'll go with the classic. I'll go Funny Face, which is Fred Astaire and Audrey Hepburn. I was born in the wrong era. I like 1950s. I love 1960s right in there. So anything Audrey Hepburn is a win for me. So I'll go
Okay.
Funny.
Never seen it. I'll assume it's fantastic, though. I take your word for it. Okay. Since you're a therapist, do you have a favorite book, or if anyone ever say, hey, you need to read this, whether it's a book, a passage, or something, is there a go-to book?
Yes. Well, work wise, I have it right here. Work wise, I would say No Bad Parts. But life wise, it is a faith based book, but it's called A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson, and it's just brilliant. It's just one of my favorite books. I marked up the entire book. So if life and spirituality is something you're interested in, that is probably one of the most phenomenal books I've read. A Return to Love.
I love it. I haven't read a book since I think senior year of high school, but if I do start, I know right where I'm going to.
I'm a book junkie.
I love it. When you're driving, do you hunt for the best parking spot of all time, or do you just park in the first closest one, or the first one far away?
I usually no, I usually actually like to park far because I like to walk. So
Get
I
your
just
steps in.
get my steps in.
Okay, I like it. Favorite McDonald's breakfast menu item?
Hash browns. That's a no brainer.
Hash browns are good.
Yeah.
I'd go McGriddle, but hash browns are good.
I'll
They're
fight
good.
you on that.
Do you have any words or sayings that you live by? Where it's like that's my favorite little 3-word quote or a saying.
It's probably one of my favorite quotes, and it's like, "Here you are living despite it all."
Ooh,
So
here you are living despite it all.
yeah,
I like it.
no.
I like
And
it.
I would probably grab one more that my dad said all the time. He passed away
Okay.
2 years ago. Which, by the way, "Hey dolls" came from him. That's what he always called all my sisters and my mom was
That's
dolls.
cool.
Yeah, he would always say, "This too shall pass."
This too shall pass. I like both of them. I'm going to add them into the repertoire. Okay, this one is a personal question because my girlfriend the other day I don't want to do it because it'll give it away. I made finger guns and I shot them in the air because I was excited, and then she did it and they were the weirdest finger guns I've ever seen. Okay, so make finger guns and shoot them. Okay, so you go here and you do this.
I'm older than you, so we go right to John Travolta.
That's good. So I was here, which is pretty similar, but I was pulling triggers with the thumbs.
No, no.
That's how I did it. She went here, and then she was pulling these as triggers. So she was going like this, and I needed to figure out if I was at fault, if she was at fault.
I'm like a whole hand thing.
Yeah, that's not bad. I might start incorporating that a little bit. I do kind of like pulling the thumb. Like, give the thumb pull. It's nice. Yeah, you like it.
I don't think I can. Wait, but see, I can't because my thumbs fold over, so it doesn't really work well.
Yeah, you got hitchhiker thumbs.
I know.
Okay, 3 more. Coke or Pepsi?
Oh, Coke Zero preferably.
Yeah, Coke's the best. Anybody who likes Pepsi might as well just text with emojis.
Did you know that McDonald's has their own recipe for Coke?
I did. I'm a diehard McDonald's fan, so I've seen all the videos, and I'm Team McDonald's. Hotter in his prime, Elvis Presley or Leonardo DiCaprio?
Elvis Presley. But I told you I was born in the wrong era. That's not even comparable.
Huh?
Leonardo
Have you
is
seen Gary Gatsby? What a
he's
stud.
no, he's just. I mean, I could literally scoop him up and throw him over my shoulder. No, Elvis had some to him.
Okay, last question. You said you're living in California. If you got to pick any state you could move to, what would be your state of choice?
Ooh. Well, right now, because I am actually in the process of moving,
Okay.
I would probably go Wyoming.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Wyoming is awesome. It's a
Little bit-
wild state. It changes so different from side to side.
Yep. and get a little bit of Yellowstone. Not as impacted as Montana, thanks to the show Yellowstone. I like Wyoming. So, yeah.
Well,
Little
again,
country.
yeah. Oh my gosh, those those states out there are incredible. All of them: Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, Northern California, in that area, just the coolest.
Absolutely gorgeous.
All right. Well, I don't want to take any more of your time. We're at 42 minutes. I can't thank you enough. You're the coolest of all time. So
Pleasure.
just pumped that you came on, and I can't wait for the whole episode to air and everybody get to watch it. Gonna wrap up today's show with the dick pic of the week. For you following at home, he's 2-1. My guy's hot.
Fresh out of 2 days in the hospital, had plenty of time to evaluate. Take Penn State over Michigan and give the points. Good luck.
If you get a chance, hit that subscribe button as hard as you possibly can. I need more subscribers. So, subscribe.